Welcome back to another Reddit video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What is a secret your parents can never find out? When I was in elementary school, I was at Target with my mom and sister. At the checkout counter I saw these cinnamon flavored Tic Tacs, and I had to have them, because I hadn't fully developed the whole want/need function in my brain. I knew my mom wouldn't buy them for me, so I grabbed them, sneakily, and put them in my pocket, sneakily. I felt pretty guilty the whole way home, and didn't make eye contact with anyone in case they could read my mind. As soon as I was inside the safety of my home, I made my way upstairs, sneakily, and opened my hot goods. They were awful. Easily my least favorite Tic Tac. I ended up throwing them in the garbage can outside, sneakily, to avoid any suspicion. This is my shame, and I carry it alone. Except now with theoretically thousands of people. I was 10ish and my dad had just painted the boiler room door orange in our basement. My younger brother and I were pushing each other around on a scatterboard in basement and my dad warned us, "Don't you dare hit this door with your skateboard." 15 minutes later I'm picking my brother up from the ground and looking at a hole in my dad's orange door caused by said skateboard. Definitely not telling dad. Instead I grab a piece of orange construction paper and a glue stick to patch the hole. It matched surprisingly well. 27 years later that construction paper is still holding strong. And I have never heard a word about it from my pop. I can never tell them that my one goal as a parent is to handle relationship issues differently than they did. They went through an extremely messy divorce when I was 8 and my only memory of them together is them screaming at each other and my sister and I hiding in our rooms. Then it was 10+ years of them talking shit about each other to us, putting us in the middle of all their arguments, and giving us a huggy guilt trip whenever they felt like we were spending more time with the other one than with them. It's been 20 years now, and my mom will still talk crap about my dad and stepmom every once in a while, despite me asking her over and over to stop. I'm happily married, but if I were to ever get divorced I will never put my daughter in the middle of arguments, speak badly about her father to her, or make her feel guilty for having a relationship with him. It's the one thing I learned from my parents and I think they would be devastated to realize the true effect it has had on me. Throw away cause ain't no way they can find out about this crap. When I was about 10 I discovered the ability to jerk in my jerkin. Oh those were great times tugging in the shower. I soon after discovered the vast world of the internet and its dark places. One day I decided to start going at it in my room. Well it was about time to finish up and had nowhere to shoot. So I splodged on the floor and rubbed it in. No big deal right? Our carpet was an off-white so when I rubbed it in it would just disappear. I did this for 10 years people. I had no idea it just smelled. I guess neither did my parents. One day they started to notice the stench. They chalked it up to my dog always laying in my room and my friends having stank ass feet. As did I. One day I got curious after learning jizz glows under black light. Borrowed my brother's black light, went to my room, closed the door, flipped the switch, and holy crap, the carpet in my room was brighter than the morning sun. I noped the freak out of there with that black light and buried that memory to this day. 4 years later my GF starts going on and on about how jizz smells like dirty wet dog and feet after it's dry, and it clicks. My room stank of jizz for years. That's a dirty secret I'll take to the grave. I was brought up in a pretty religious home. My family had me in theater, choir, youth group, and all kinds of other extracurricular activities to keep me out of trouble, so they trusted me pretty well. One night, I was about 15, my boyfriend at the time had come over to watch movies. The stipulation was that we could lay in the bed and watch the movie, but the door had to be open. After a while, my mom came in to check on us and everything was fine, so she thanked my boyfriend for being a gentleman and shut the door on her way out. Immediately, as if the door shut had triggered some teenage hormone overload, we started making out and fooling around. He slid his hand up my shirt for a bit, but finally having some privacy, I soon directed his hand to mine at the bits. Yay first, not self-stimulated, orgasm. We never got caught, which was considered a major triumph, and we found ways after that to hook up without my parents knowing. It wasn't until a few months later at my youth's purity ball we signed pledges and wore rings to signify our abstinence for God and marriage that my dad delivered this humiliating speech. He told the congregation he was proud of the strong lady I had become. That regardless of having a boyfriend, I stood up to teen peer pressure and hormones, and that he witnessed me deflect an attempt at immoral behavior while watching movies with my boyfriend one night. Apparently, the blinds had been open and my bed faced them from in the house. He happened to be walking in from the garage and caught a peek at me removing my boyfriend's hand from my boob. I was mortified. The secret he must never know? The night I got my first orgasm, he thought I deflected my boyfriend from touching my boobs, when in reality I was actually directing him much further south. When I was about 11 or 12 I was going through my pyromaniac stage. One Saturday, I decided I would grab a steel can and fill it with gasoline and head to the woods. Now, this wasn't just your typical old can of SpaghettiOs. This was a 1-gallon bulk-sized can, filled to the brim. I took it to the woods and decided it would be cool just to light it on fire and see what would happen. I lit it and it caught like I expected and kept burning inside the can. After about 15 minutes I got bored and went to try and put it out. In the process, I knocked the can over, spreading gasoline all over the forest floor, and it erupted in a ball of flame. I quickly ran back to my house to get water and I come running back with about 5 gallons. By this point the fire had spread tremendously and my efforts were useless. I decided my best bet would be to run inside and play video games. Luckily this spot in the woods was pretty good ways away from my parents' house, so it didn't draw my parents' attention immediately. After about an hour or so, the entire fire department is on scene battling the 3 to 4 acres of forest fire that is roaring. There was a road that runs behind my house and the fire basically engulfed all of the forest separating my parents' house and this road. This road is notorious for drug dealers and meth houses. While the firefighters are trying to battle the flames, it is discovered that the house closest to the fire is a rather large cook house, and cops show up and a huge bust goes down. Naturally, the fire was blamed on them, and my parents just accepted that. It is now 20 years later, and my parents still do not know, nor will they ever know. When we were staying at a friend's place on holiday, my SO and I accidentally broke her guest bed. Like, one of the legs gave way and the whole thing collapsed. It was an ultra cheap metal frame, and SO found a meat cleaver and we banged the bejesus out of that bed to get it back into shape, to no avail. I had to ring my friend and confess. Due to the conservative nature of my parents and their firm beliefs, we have allowed them to believe that we are chaste and good and would never actually have sex. You are gross. We haven't lied, but we have certainly been guilty of omission. We are getting married this year, and my friend with the broken bed is a bridesmaid and is working on her speech. So, when I was 6 or 7 we had Christmas with the extended family. One of my uncles was there, and I was always a bit afraid of him, because he had done some time for a drug charge and just gotten out within the last year or 2. Anyway, I walk into the kitchen at one point, and he is there with this giant wedge of cheese. He looks up, and asks if I wanted any. I nod, because I freaking love cheese. He says okay, but you cannot tell your parents, because you'll ruin your dinner, they will get mad at me, and he slices me a few pieces. We eat in silence, and then I leave, convinced that I was an accomplice in some terrible act with my ex-con uncle. To this day, I have never told my parents. As to what would happen if they found out, well, then they would know that the reason I didn't eat that one Christmas dinner in the early 90s was because I had already filled up on expensive cheese. This happened in my freshman year of high school. So one of my friends got a hold of some weed, and I haven't tried it before, so we had the stupid idea to smoke it. He came over along with some other friends of mine. The original plan was to go to forest near my house to smoke it, but it was cold, so we didn't want to. One of us wanted to smoke it on my porch, but I disagreed. I forgot how, but we came up with the stupidest idea and hotbox in my bathroom. Keep in mind my parents were gonna be home from work in an hour, and if they found out my life would be done. We quickly made a crappy bong out of a Gatorade bottle, then removed everything from my bathroom. We lit up the weed and smoked for like 10 minutes. Once we were done we quickly cleaned up and emptied a whole Axe bottle in the bathroom. My friends being stoned as street left. I went back upstairs to check the bathroom and it smelled like flat out weed. I tried to use every possible thing to get the smell out, but it didn't work. I called my parents. They have the same job and they said they were 15 minutes away. I knew I was freaked. Now keep in mind my parents are extremely strict and if they caught me, I would be over. This is when I thought of the stupidest thing any sane human would think. Burn my bathroom down. I ended up lighting some towels on fire and trying my hardest to burn the sink area. It ended up catching on fire, but it was slow. I quickly called 911 and 3 minutes later fire department. I see fire trucks out my house. They took care of the fire and my parents came home shocked. Half of my bathroom was charred and the door knocked down. Fire department said it was probably an electrical current from the outlet that burned a towel. I slept that night thinking how stupid I was and what I just did. To this day my parents don't know. One day, my parents, my younger brother, who had Down syndrome, and I went to some Down syndrome house where they take in children with Down syndrome. They didn't explain to me what the trip was for, as they knew I couldn't handle it. My bro was 5 and I was 7 and we still are extremely close. While in the house, my parents were talking to the keepers of the house, while my brother and I went to the room with the Down syndrome children. I overheard my mom saying, "Are you there any schools for children with special needs in this area?" Immediately everything clicked, and as expected I couldn't control myself. I was throwing baseball with some chubby Down syndrome child and he threw the basketball to me and I just held it, looked in his face, and he was smiling. I looked at my brother and saw an expression of unease. He didn't feel comfortable for probably a reason. I got so pissed off. I felt like the chubby Down syndrome was laughing because of what my mom just said. He was laughing at me and going to take my brother away. I threw the baseball with all strength right in the chubby boy's face. His whole mouth was bleeding as was his nose. Intuitively before the boy even started crying I screamed no, my brother's name. And the boy started screaming even louder. He was in shock. My parents came in together with the keepers. I told them it's crazy papa, mama. I told no he's going to live here and he just threw the ball in this boy's face. My parents apologized and we left the place. In the car they asked my brother why he threw the ball, but my brother just angrily didn't answer, as if he knew what I wanted. And today he is turning 19. He still lives at home, but he has a job, is almost independent, and the joy of all our lives. This seems stupid to even write, but I can never share with my parents where I stand on political issues. Opposite of a lot of stories I've seen on Reddit, I'm actually more conservative than my mom and stepdad. They are about as far left as possible, and it's painful to hear them talk about things in their "I smell my own farts" manner. And I'm really just somewhere in the middle. But to them, it would be much more extreme. The closest I ever came to talking to them about this was the time I realized I really never could. And all I'd said was that if people would just take a step back, they would realize that both parties are broken and there is no one right answer. That did not end well. When I was 18, I had woke up in the middle of the night to a feeling in my stomach. I brushed it off as bad gas or something and waited for it to pass. It didn't. I quickly realized I needed to poop at that exact moment. So I rolled out of bed, clenching my butthole, and zipped down the stairs. I Frankenstein walked through my kitchen and into the bathroom because I was reaching critical mass. Once I made into the bathroom I turned and aimed my ass at the toilet, thinking that I was close enough to the seat. But I wasn't. Oh god, I wasn't. I sat down on the seat and it felt slippery. I had shotgun blasted the toilet with shit and I was now sitting in my own crap, still letting loose a torrent of shit. After I had finished and wiped, I rolled off the toilet and laid in the fetal position for a solid 10 minutes. Then I got up, cleaned off the toilet and wall behind it, and made sure there was no shit anywhere, and went back to bed. I'm 24 now, and have never said a word. All in all, it was a crappy situation. When I was little, my dad used to travel for work a lot. Like, 48 weeks out of the year a lot. I didn't mind. I wasn't his biggest fan when I was little. So, one night, when he was away on a business trip, my brother and sister, who are both older than me, were fighting. I heard my mom tell them that if they didn't stop, she wasn't going to tuck them into bed. I assumed she wasn't going to tuck me into bed either. I was probably 6 at the time, so I started crying. When she came in to say goodnight to me, she asked why I was crying. I was embarrassed, so I told her I was crying because I missed dad. The next day, my dad sent me a bouquet of flowers and a cookie basket with a card that said I miss you too. I will never tell my dad that I didn't really miss him. Like and subscribe for more Reddit videos.